So this is a follow-up. I already did one video. This is such a good paper, and it's so like, it highlights what's going on today. It was written in 2007. And, you know, and I want to, so this is a continuation. I just want to say, I think what this paper doesn't really mention, or maybe it does, maybe I did. One of the biggest problems right now is we have professional organizations setting the standard of care, as I've said so many times, and they think they're experts. It's really not a good idea to be an expert, really, because you won't be willing to listen to somebody that maybe you see as having less education as you do. But this is what the Nazis did too. Yeah, this is what psychiatrist Nazis did during the Holocaust. They saw people because they believed in what they were doing. It doesn't mean they're monsters. It's just that's how this ideology becomes, it's like a brain virus. And it's most definitely right now in the higher educated, unfortunately. Because who would listen to somebody like me, right? I'm just a nurse. So I want to continue off with a couple of things. In addition to resting on poor science, the atrocities of the German psychiatric establishment were based upon several fundamental errors of ethical, professional, and scientific conduct. While many may simply brush off any deeper consideration of the issue with the stance that they were just evil, such an approach only deepens the risk that the events will be repeated. So this goes on to say, where did they go wrong? Several misconceptions lay at the source. Number one, medical ethics is ethnic, cultural, and time sensitive. The theory behind such a proposition is that much of medical ethics is time and cultural bound. Therefore, what may be unethical now may not necessarily have been unethical then. This approach inoculates a relative attitude to the atrocities, minimizing the severity of the injustices and gross professional negligence so inherent in what transpired. Certain aspects of medical ethics transcend time and culture, except under very specific and precise circumstances, such as when there is a serious and immediate risk to others. A physician should always respect autonomy, benevolence, or benefit, and patient's confidentiality and dignity. Although it may be suggested that there is a major leap between disregard of these time-honored factors and the genocide of euthanasia, this is how it all began. It may even define the central thread of the atrocities to the mentally ill. While the form of ethical medical practice may depend on resources and cultural nuances, the basis for ethical behavior should remain constant, irrespective of time and place. Absolutely. Number two, philosophical constructs and ideas should define clinical practice. During the period of the Nazi regime, psychiatry supported compulsory sterilization and euthanasia of the physically and mentally ill, and subsequently the killing of inferior races. They did this by applying scientifically invalid conclusions, just like they do with this gender-affirming care and this systemic racism stuff. They did this by applying scientifically invalid conclusions from evolutionary biology. Aside from the fact that these philosophical constructs and scientific paradigms of evolutionary theory were flawed, they were also immoral and went against basic tenets of medical ethics and clinical practice. Much of this approach was based on theories of neo-Darwinism. Furthermore, ever since Francis Galton, I'm not going to get into all that, it just goes back to, well, no, let me read it. Furthermore, ever since Francis Galton in 1865 first published the idea of eugenics, a term rooted in the Greek, quote, good in birth, or, quote, noble in heredity, Individuals with mental illness have been targeted by eugenics programs, which psychiatrists intimately involved in the theoretical debate, The eugenics movement was not limited to Germany, and proponents of eugenics were prominent in several other countries, including most notably Britain and the USA. I've said this before, been operating under eugenics. Interestingly, this is like mind-blowing, this part. Interestingly, during the period in which euthanasia of the mentally ill was taking place in Germany, a fascinating debate transpired between two prominent American academics and was published in the American Journal of Psychiatry. Can you imagine? I mean, unbelievable. That was in 1942. Foster Kennedy, professor of neurology at Cornell University in New York, argued that all children with proven mental retardation, feeble-mindedness, over the age of 5 should be put to death. Leo Kanner, however, maintained that such individuals might still serve a purpose to society, garbage collection, postmen, etc., as well as give meaning to their parents by virtue of having to care for them. Accordingly, no one emphasized the unethical nature of putting individuals with disabilities to death. Yeah, that's unbelievable. I'm going to jump ahead. Preventative medicine. Let me go to this. There's a lot here. Number 4, psychiatrists have a particular role in channeling societal issues and public discussion. Many psychiatrists maintain that they have an inherent responsibility more than other medical professions to be involved in community affairs. This is because psychiatry by nature advocates a holistic approach to the patient, which often includes taking into account societal factors and contemporary ideology. Thus, while the unique role of psychiatry in the genocide may be overstated, since other areas of medicine were also involved, psychiatrists fitted in particularly well. The dangers inherent in such involvement, while not obvious, are, however, prominent when important boundaries become blurred. We have a ton of healthcare blurred boundaries going on, again, because of the people setting the standard of care. Clinical practice and political machinations need to be kept separate. They sure the hell do, and they're not right now. Many psychiatrists during the Nazi era were state-controlled, and this further facilitated their conforming to the program. The rights of the individual cannot be totally ignored in the interest of society. No. The dangers become particularly acute in psychiatry compared to other subspecialties in medicine, since it may be suggested that the field of psychiatry is often used in order to remove undesirables from society and place them in asylums. It may be argued that labeling of mental disease and its classification is a means of controlling members of the community who do not comply with accepted norms. Therefore, their freedom should be taken away and replaced with hospitalization. However, while at times there may be a fine line separating mental health and illness, it becomes very clear that the extent to which Nazi psychiatry allowed the political and community atmosphere to influence and govern clinical practice was grossly unethical, murderous, and unacceptable to an extreme extent. Are people, anybody in healthcare waking up? Waking up, do you see it playing out right in front of you? Number 5, political economic pressures may influence. Okay, so I'm running out of time, and I'm not going to do another one. This great article. Not an article, it's a journal paper. And then, it also has one section for psychiatrists and scientists have a responsibility to enhance mankind. But it says here, while no direct parallel can be drawn today, many continue in a sincere scientific effort towards the enhancement of man through molecular biology and genetic engineering. Appropriate dialogue is required in order to ensure that that desire for improving man, creating a better human, does not come at the expense of the individual patient. Every person should have to read this that's in healthcare.